That Tuesday changed everything Dr. Sarah thought she knew about breakthrough moments. The woman sitting across from her was telling the same story again. For the third time. Same type of man. Same disappointment. Same abandonment narrative. Lara's hands were trembling, her eyes moist, but her gaze held an emptiness that spoke volumes. This time was different, Lara said, her voice carrying that familiar undertone of desperation. Michael was really understanding. For the first time, I felt safe. Dr. Sarah glanced at the pages in her notebook. 6 months ago, there was David. A year before that, Alex. Every time, the same phrases, the same hope, the same ending. The therapist could sense the storm brewing in the woman's inner world. The silence in the room was so thick, you could hear the desperation echoing from Lara's heart. Lara, Dr. Sarah began gently. We've heard this story before, only the names change. Lara straightened up suddenly. No, this is different. Michael, really, listens to you. Dr. Sarah completed the sentence. You feel understood for the first time. Then he starts pulling away, takes longer to respond to texts. And finally, stop. Lara's voice came out shaky. Something inside whispered that it could no longer remain hidden. Dr. Sarah noticed the trembling in the woman's hands across from her. 20 years of experience told her this moment was arriving. The door to breakthrough was beginning to open. What do you want to stop, Lara? This conversation, this analysis. Lara stood up, walking toward the window. You say the same things every time. Like I'm some kind of machine, programmed somehow. Programmed? Dr. Sarah's voice was low, curious. Lara's breathing quickened. The energy in the room had completely shifted. Yes, like I have no choice at all. I keep choosing the same type of men, keep getting abandoned the same way. But what Dr. Sarah heard next would challenge everything she thought about therapeutic timing. The therapist closed her notebook. She had prepared for moments like these. Lara, close your eyes. What? Close your eyes and forget this room, this moment. Go back to little Lara. Remember your 8-year-old self. Lara hesitated. The voice inside told her to run. But another voice, coming from deeper within, said, Enough. She closed her eyes. You're in your family's living room. Dr. Sarah's voice was like a guide. Your mother and father are arguing. What do you see? Lara's face tensed. Dad. Dad is very angry. Mom is crying. And you? I'm sitting in the corner, pretending to read a book, but actually watching them. What are you feeling? Fear. And, Lara's voice broke. And guilt. Like it's somehow my fault. Dr. Sarah didn't leave the woman alone in this journey to her childhood. Little Lara, what does Daddy do next? He apologizes to Mom, kisses her. Says it won't happen again, and Mom believes him. She always believes him. Then what happens? Then, Lara's voice began to tremble. Then things are good for a few weeks. Dad is so sweet. He brings flowers, buys gifts. I get so happy because my family feels whole again. And then? Lara's breathing became choppy. And then it starts again. Worse. Every time it gets worse. A deep silence formed in the room. Dr. Sarah could feel the magnitude of the earthquake happening in the woman's inner world. But the real moment of breakthrough hadn't arrived yet. What happened next surprised even the therapist. Lara, open your eyes. When Lara opened her eyes, tears were streaming down her cheeks. Do you see? That's why I keep choosing the same men. What kind of men? Men like my father. There was ruthless clarity in her voice. The ones who seem perfect at first. Kind, understanding, romantic. Then they change. Dr. Sarah had been waiting for this moment to come. But she hadn't asked the crucial question yet. What about you? What role do you play in this cycle? Lara's face took on an expression of bewilderment. Me? I'm just trying to be loved. How do you try to be loved? By doing everything they want. Never saying no. Never expressing my own needs. Trying to be the perfect girlfriend. Just like little Lara. Tried to be the perfect daughter. The sentence completed itself. So maybe Dad wouldn't fight with Mom anymore. The energy in the room shifted again. This time there was a vibration deeper within. The vibration of truth. Dr. Sarah noticed the change in the woman's eyes. These were no longer eyes trying to escape. These were eyes beginning to truly see for the first time. But Lara, the therapist's voice was gentle but resolute. As a little girl, you couldn't control anything, but now I'm a grown woman. Lara's voice came out hoarse. And I'm still playing the same game. Which game? The be perfect so you won't be abandoned game. Lara sat back down in her chair. Her hands were no longer trembling, just clasped together in her lap. But I always end up getting abandoned anyway. Because... Dr. Sarah waited. This answer needed to come from within. Because the real me was never there. Lara's voice was barely a whisper. I just try to become what they want. And after a while, this performance exhausts me. Or them. Because the person they fell in love with isn't me. Just the version I was imitating. The silence in the room was of a different quality this time. It was the silence of understanding. But neither of them knew how deep this understanding would cut. Lara, now I'm going to ask you a different question. Dr. Sarah leaned forward. Who is the real you? The woman thought for a long time. I don't know. Then she laughed, but it was a bitter laugh. I'm 32 years old and I don't know who the real me is. Because I've always transformed into what others expected. Are you ready to learn now? How would I learn after all these years? Dr. Sarah stood up, walked toward the window. Lara, tomorrow night you're going to do an experiment. What kind of experiment? I'm sure Michael will call you. Because men like that always call, especially when you go silent. This time, you're going to tell him the truth. What truth? The truth that you're angry. The truth that you're disappointed. The truth that he disappointed you. Lara's eyes widened. But then he'll definitely leave me. Maybe. Dr. Sarah turned, looked at the woman. But at least he'll have left the real you, not your fake version. These words echoed in the room. Lara's world was being shaken, but this time in a good way. And if he runs away from the real me? Then he was the wrong man. The real you is waiting for the right person. Lara remained silent for a long time. The child within felt fear, but the woman was finding courage within herself. Little did she know, this courage would be tested sooner than expected. What if the real me is never loved? Dr. Sarah smiled. Lara, the fake you isn't being loved anyway. Only your performance is being appreciated. And maintaining that performance is destroying you. The woman took a deep breath. I'll try. But I'm very scared. Fear is normal. You're going to be real for the first time in years. That takes courage. Lara stood up, looked at Dr. Sarah. What if after I do this experiment, I realize how fake all my relationships have been? Then you'll have the chance to build real ones. As the woman walked toward the door, she stopped. Dr. Sarah, one more question. Am I the only one who sees this pattern? Or is everyone like this? The therapist answered with the wisdom of years. We all have patterns left over from our childhood, Lara. But very few people have the awareness and courage to change them. Where does this courage come from? From being tired of being fake. And from wondering what real happiness might feel like. Lara opened the door, then turned back one last time. I'm coming tomorrow at the same time. I'll tell you what I said to him. Dr. Sarah nodded. I'll be waiting for you. After the woman left the room, the therapist sat in her place for a long time. She'd been doing this work for 20 years, but something told her this case would be different. That night when Lara saw Michael calling, she answered the phone. For the first time, she didn't play the perfect girlfriend role. For the first time, she said she was angry. And Michael, as expected, was surprised. He became defensive. Then started blaming. The conversation escalated quickly, with him calling her crazy and too needy. When Lara hung up the phone, she was crying. But this time, it was different crying. For the first time, she was crying for herself, not because she'd lost someone's approval, but what she didn't expect was how empty she would feel the next morning. The next day, sitting in Dr. Sarah's office telling her story, she said, I feel terrible, lost, like I don't know who I am anymore. The therapist nodded knowingly. That's normal, Lara. You've just dismantled a personality structure you've been using for decades. Of course you feel lost. But I thought I would feel liberated. Instead, I feel hollow. Liberation isn't immediate. Right now, you're in what we call the void, the space between who you were and who you're becoming. How long does this last? Dr. Sarah's honesty was gentle but firm. Months, maybe longer. Real change doesn't happen overnight, despite what the movies tell us. Lara's face fell. So I'm going to feel this empty for months? You're going to feel many things. Empty, sometimes. Confused, definitely. But also, gradually, more solid. More real. This wasn't the quick transformation Lara had hoped for. The weeks that followed were some of the hardest of Lara's life. The familiar comfort of her old patterns was gone, but nothing had replaced them yet. She felt like she was learning to walk again, stumbling through interactions that used to be automatic. Her work suffered. She'd built her professional identity around being accommodating, helpful, never difficult. Now, when her boss piled extra work on her, she found herself hesitating before saying yes. The hesitation felt foreign, uncomfortable. I don't know how to exist, she told Dr. Sarah during a particularly difficult session. Everything I thought was me wasn't me, but I don't know what is. Tell me about yesterday, Dr. Sarah prompted. Give me one specific example. My colleague asked me to cover her shift. Before, I would have said yes immediately. Yesterday, I asked when she needed to know by. She looked surprised. I felt like I was being mean. And how did it resolve? I ended up saying yes. But not right away, and I felt guilty the whole time. Dr. Sarah made a note. The guilt is your old system trying to pull you back. It's designed to keep you in familiar territory. But what if familiar territory was better? At least I knew how to navigate it. This doubt was part of the process, Dr. Sarah knew. The period between breaking the old pattern and establishing new ones was always difficult. But the biggest test came 3 months later. Lara met someone at a coffee shop. David was kind, intelligent, and seemed genuinely interested in her. For a moment, she felt the old urge to transform herself into his ideal woman. The muscle memory of performance was still there, ready to activate. But something had shifted. The idea of pretending exhausted her before she even started. I have to tell you something, she said on their second date. I'm kind of a mess right now. I'm figuring out who I am after years of being who I thought people wanted me to be. David looked surprised, then smiled. That's the most honest thing anyone's said to me in months. This interaction showed Lara that something fundamental had changed. She couldn't go back to the old way even if she wanted to. But honesty, she discovered, came with its own challenges. David appreciated her transparency, but he also expected it consistently. When she had a bad day and tried to put on a cheerful face, he noticed. "You're doing that thing again," he said gently one evening, "where you disappear behind the smile." "I don't know how else to be," she admitted. "When I'm upset, I'm used to hiding it." What would happen if you didn't hide it? The question terrified her, but she tried. She told him about her fears, her confusion, her ongoing therapy. Some conversations were messy. Some ended in arguments, but they felt real in a way her previous relationships never had. However, as winter approached, Lara faced a new challenge. The holidays brought family gatherings, and with them, the pressure to slip back into familiar roles. Her mother expected the accommodating daughter. Her father expected easy conversation and pleasant updates about her life. "How are things with Michael?" her mother asked over Thanksgiving dinner. "We broke up," Lara said simply. "Oh, honey, what happened? You seemed so happy." In the past, Lara would have minimized the breakup, blamed herself, or made excuses for Michael. This time, she felt something different rising up. "He wasn't treating me well, so I ended it." The table went quiet. Her father looked uncomfortable. Her mother's smile faltered. "Well," her mother said finally, "I'm sure there were faults on both sides." That moment crystallized something for Lara. Her family was invested in her being a certain way, agreeable, uncomplicated, never too demanding. Her authenticity disrupted their equilibrium too. The conversation that followed was tense. Her parents didn't know how to relate to this version of their daughter who had boundaries, who didn't automatically smooth over conflict. On the drive home, Lara called Dr. Sarah's emergency line. "I think I made a mistake," she said, tears in her voice. "Maybe being fake was better. At least people liked me then." "Tell me what happened." After Lara recounted the dinner, Dr. Sarah was quiet for a moment. "How do you feel right now?" "Sad, angry, scared that I've ruined everything." And underneath all of that, Lara thought, relieved, I guess. Like I finally told the truth. That relief. Hold on to that. It's your internal compass telling you you're on the right path, even when the external feedback is negative. This phone call marked another turning point. Lara began to understand that authenticity wasn't just about romantic relationships. It was about all her connections. 6 months after that first breakthrough session, Lara sat in Dr. Sarah's office with a different quality of presence. She looked more solid somehow, less apologetic about taking up space. "I'm still confused sometimes," she said, "but I'm not empty anymore. I feel substantial, like I'm actually here in my own life. What's different? I used to feel like I was watching myself perform. Now I feel like I'm living my life from the inside." Dr. Sarah smiled. This was what real transformation looked like. Not a sudden change, but a gradual solidifying into authenticity. "There's something else," Lara continued. "David and I, it's different, slower, sometimes awkward, but real." "How so?" "We fight sometimes, but they're real fights about real things, not me trying to avoid conflict. And when we make up, it feels earned." This was the deepest lesson, that real relationships included friction, messiness, imperfection. "I'm learning that love isn't about being perfect for someone," Lara said. "It's about being real and seeing if they can love what's real." Dr. Sarah noted the shift in language. Not seeing if I can make them love me, but seeing if they can love what's real. "What about your family?" Lara's expression became more complex. "That's harder. They're not excited about the real me. But I can't go back to pretending with them either. So, we're adjusting." "How are you handling that adjustment?" "Some days better than others. There are moments when I miss how easy it was before, when everyone was happy, because I was performing happiness. But then I remember how exhausted I was all the time. This acknowledgement of loss was important. Authenticity wasn't just gain, it was also grief for the familiar, even if the familiar was unhealthy. 8 months in, Lara experienced what Dr. Sarah privately called the test. Her ex, Michael, reached out. He'd been thinking about her, he said. Maybe they'd both been too hasty. Could they try again? The old Lara would have been thrilled, would have seen this as validation, proof that her real self was lovable after all. But when Lara read his message, she felt something she'd never felt before. Clarity. She could see the pattern now, not just intellectually, but in her bones. Michael hadn't changed. He was just cycling back through his own pattern, probably because his new supply of validation had run dry. "I know you're thinking about him," David said when she showed him the message. "And I know this is your decision to make." His response surprised her. No jealousy, no demands, just acknowledgement of her autonomy. "A year ago, I would have dropped everything and run back to him," she told David. "Not because I wanted to, but because I wouldn't have believed I deserved anything better. And now? Now I know what real feels like. And I can't go back to fake, even comfortable fake." She deleted Michael's message without responding. That night, lying in bed, Lara felt something she'd never experienced before: pride in herself. Not for an accomplishment or achievement, but for simply being authentic in a moment of temptation. The 1-year mark brought a session that neither Dr. Sarah nor Lara expected to be their last. "What would you tell someone just starting this process?" Dr. Sarah asked. Lara thought carefully. "I'd tell them it's harder than you think, lonelier than you expect, and longer than you hope. But," she paused, "you become real. And once you're real, nothing fake can satisfy you anymore." The silence that followed was profound. "I can never go back," Lara said finally. "Not because I won't, but because I can't. It's like I've crossed a threshold. The old me, she doesn't exist anymore." Dr. Sarah recognized this moment. It was what she privately called the point of no return, when a patient had changed so fundamentally that their old patterns became impossible, not just unwanted. "How does that feel?" she asked. "Scary, exciting, final." Lara met the therapist's eyes. "I used to be afraid of being abandoned. Now I'm more afraid of abandoning myself." This was the real transformation. Not just changing behavior, but changing the fundamental relationship with oneself. "The pattern is broken," Lara said quietly. "Not just with men, but with everyone. I can't pretend anymore. I literally can't. It feels physically impossible." Dr. Sarah made a note. This was what she'd hoped for, but rarely saw: a complete rewiring of the personality structure. "But here's what I'm realizing," Lara continued, her voice softer now. "Breaking the pattern was just the beginning. Now I have to learn how to live as this real person. And I don't always know how to do that." "What don't you know?" "How to have healthy relationships. How to set boundaries without feeling guilty. How to trust my own feelings when they're inconvenient for others. How to exist authentically in a world that often rewards pretense." Dr. Sarah leaned forward. "And how does not knowing feel?" "Terrifying. But also honest. I'd rather be lost and real than found and fake." This acceptance of uncertainty was perhaps the deepest sign of growth. "I keep thinking about that day when you asked me to close my eyes and go back to being 8, Lara said. "I can still feel her, that little girl who just wanted to fix everything. But now I also feel protective of her, like I want to tell her she doesn't have to carry that weight." "What would you tell her?" "That it was never her job to fix her parents' marriage. That she was lovable exactly as she was. That she didn't have to earn love by being perfect." Dr. Sarah felt the profound shift in the room. Lara wasn't just intellectually understanding her patterns, she was healing them from within. "What happens now?" Lara asked, and there was vulnerability in the question. "Now you live. And you learn as you go. The path isn't mapped out, but you have your internal compass now. That's what matters. What if I make mistakes? What if I hurt people by being real? What if authenticity isn't always kind? Then you'll figure it out. You'll make amends. You'll learn to be real and considerate. These are the challenges of genuine living. Much better problems to have than the ones that come with pretense." Lara nodded slowly. "I guess I'm trading known problems for unknown ones. But now the problems are yours, not the ones you inherited from a scared 8-year-old. As Lara gathered her things to leave, she moved more slowly than usual. "This feels like an ending, but also like a beginning. Most real endings do. I'm scared I won't know what to do without these sessions. What if I backslide? You might stumble. That's different from backsliding. You've crossed the threshold. You can't unknow what you know now." Lara walked toward the door, then turned back one final time. "Dr. Sarah, I need you to know something. That Tuesday when you asked me to close my eyes, that was the day I started becoming real. I don't know what comes next, but I know I'll figure it out as the real me." The therapist nodded. "That's all any of us can do." As Lara stepped into the hallway, she paused at the threshold of the office door. Behind her lay months of discovery, breakthrough, and painful growth. Ahead lay uncertainty. But for the first time in her life, uncertainty felt like possibility rather than threat. She had questions now instead of answers. How would she navigate love without losing herself? How would she handle conflict without defaulting to performance? How would she build a life based on authenticity rather than approval? She didn't know. But she trusted herself to find out. The door closed softly behind her, and Lara walked toward whatever came next, not as the woman she thought others wanted her to be, but as herself. After Lara left, Dr. Sarah sat in the profound silence of her office. Some sessions ended with improvement, some ended with insight. But this one had ended with transformation. The woman who had walked in a year ago, desperate, repetitive, lost in patterns, had died somewhere in this process. The woman who walked out was someone entirely new. Not perfect, not finished, but irrevocably real. And real, Dr. Sarah knew, was a one-way door. Once you walked through it, the old world of masks and performances became a place you could visit in memory, but never inhabit again. The therapeutic relationship had done its work. It had midwifed the birth of an authentic human being. Now came the real test, life itself. Have you ever found yourself caught in patterns that feel impossible to break? What would it mean to choose authenticity over approval, even when the path ahead is uncertain? Share your thoughts. Sometimes the most profound changes begin with simply naming what we've been hiding from ourselves. Names and details changed for privacy, inspired by Jungian therapeutic principles.